Mr. McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just want to commend my colleague because he pretty much said everything I would say, so great job on that. Yeah, right? Would the chairman yield for a couple of questions?
Yes,
Mr.
I
Farrell.
will.
Mr. Farrell yields.
Danny, I want to change topics just a little bit and hit on countywide shared services, that part of the bill, if you can dig that up.
Yeah, I've got it here.
All
Part
right.
BBB, three Bs.
They must have told you I was coming, Denny. Page 125, part triple B, countywide. This is a countywide shared services. So the chief executive, the county exec of each county has got to come up with a plan to share services, as I understand it, right?
Yes.
And that's not optional, as I understand it. That says they shall. So there's
Yeah,
no.
they shall.
Okay, so we are mandating that a county executive come up with a plan. I'm not even sure we have the authority to do that, quite frankly. But we're telling a county executive, you will come up with a plan to share services, whether you want to or not, right?
Yes, you must put together a performance and go for it. You may not come up with anything, but you have to go and try it.
You have to go and maybe spin your wheels, but you have to do something. And you have to get this done by, what's the date it's due by? November 1? Is that the right date? Or
No, it's August, I think.
Well, August. Okay, so I counted that out. From today,
August 1st, yeah.
yeah, not including weekends, they have like 80 days
Yeah.
to put together a shared services plan, not including anybody taking vacations or anything like that. So they got about 80 days to come up with a plan, 3 public hearings, and they must come forward with it. Have we appropriated a dime worth of money for this?
No.
Okay. So what about the case where, and by the way, the county executive has got to consult basically everybody, all the stakeholders, including the collective bargaining units in each
Yes.
municipality, right?
Yes.
So they could put the brakes on any of this, as I read it and understand it. That anybody that's on this board, there has to be a member on the panel from each one of the municipalities in that county, right?
Right. If the county is over 1 million.
I don't think so.
No, it says that in that also. If you read it.
Well, can we go through that? Because I think it's for outside of 1 million. I don't think it's not.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
So most of our counties are not going to be 1 million. I don't think Rensselaer County is, for example. Yet they're going to have to do this, right? Washington County is certainly not 1 million. They're going to have to do this, right?
Yes, they do.
So they have to go to every stakeholder in the mix and hold these hearings pretty quickly and come up with a plan. There is no appropriation of money for this. And what we're saying, I guess, to them is that, give me 1 second, Danny. So what we're saying is that there's a shared services panel. What do we do in the case where, which I know to be the case after talking to my county executives, and I'm sure we've all heard this, they've been sharing services for decades, as much as they possibly can. So what's to stop them now from saying, hey, you know what? Let's stop sharing. Let's just undo all those shared services agreements right now, because I need to constitute a shared service panel, because I can't get anything for what I'm already doing, right? There's no money to be had for what they're already sharing. Like I have 2 towns that are sharing garbage disposal pickup. They're not gonna net a penny because they've already done it. You can't get more blood out of that stone. So what's to stop the crafty county executive, which is probably most of them are pretty darn smart, from undoing all the shared services agreements right now, reconstituting a shared services plan, and using it as a money grab, really, which, hint, hint to the county executives out there listening, that's what I would do. Undo them all, redo them, and then say, here's my shared services, Mr. Governor, Mr. Secretary of State, show me the money.
I would like to think better of those people.
Well, they're broke.
I know the people in New York City, and they're good people. So I would assume the people you're talking about are also good people. they're not going to want to play games.
They are great people, Denny. And
I'm sorry, yes, great people
they are,
up there.
They're good people. They're smart people.
Yes.
They're broke from the mandates that this building puts on them. They are facing crushing burdens. They have a 2% tax cap that they're trying to maneuver under. So they've got to get creative. So what they're going to say is, wait a minute, Steve, I've been sharing all these services forever. I don't have much left. And by the way, what I'm going to do is put together this dog and pony show. I'm going to and run around the county and get everybody together. And then anybody in the mix can say, that doesn't work for me. And by the way, this thing also says, and if you haven't read this, folks, if you haven't read, take the time, because God knows we have time. Pick up page 124 to about 128 and read this. This is among the dumbest who's on first legislation you're ever going to see. I don't know who put this together. It had to be the second floor, because it couldn't have been this house. This thing makes absolutely no sense. You talk about a dog and pony show for headlines, talking about shared services, Denny. Anybody in the mix can say that doesn't work for me and put the brakes on what the shared services are going to be. So I guess what I'm asking you is, where is the money going to come from? It looks to me, and at this, I guess, yes or no, the money's going to come after they present what their shared services are, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's
yes.
right. And the Secretary of State, after they've gone through everything, is then going to put forth what the requirements are, which they may or may not meet after the fact. Talk about a bait and switch, by the way. After they've done all the work, the Secretary of State could say, nah, that doesn't count. You don't get any money. So there's no rules out there for what's going to happen. We're throwing something out there for a headline, much like free college, for a little soundbite for this governor around and saying, look what I did. I forced them to share services, which they're already doing. But that there's no money behind this. There's no guarantee of any forthcoming money to any county for doing all this work.
They will, by the way, get money next year probably. But let me talk with, let me talk here for a
Next
minute.
year, so, okay, Denny. So it's a bit of the Popeye and Wimpy form of incentive. I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. You do all the work now, and I'm going to maybe we'll appropriate money for you next year. Can you imagine how that's going over with our county legislatures and county executives?
Yeah, well, you know, this is nice, but I would say this. One of the things we are concerned about, and everybody on both sides of the aisle are consistently talking about, is how can we save money, how can we lower taxes. And this is a performance that's being brought to say, let's try and do this and see what we can do. So I don't think they're going to take the direction you're going, which is humor. I think they're going to say, maybe we can do something with this. And maybe they will be able to give us. I don't think people are going to say, well, I'm going to close this off and come back again, because though he's no longer doing the business he does from the federal courts, you might have him visit you again. So,
but there's nothing technically wrong with stopping an agreement. Let me just give you a quick example. First of all, the schools can opt in, can opt out. They can do whatever they want to do. That's fine. So the schools can choose to do that. But let's just say you have two towns in my district, Brunswick and Lansingburg. Yeah. And they're sharing trash pickup as a shared service. They're sharing plowing. Yes. And there's all kinds, they've saved as much as they can. And believe me, they'll tell you that. They buy salt together, they buy paper together, do everything they can do. But what's to stop them from saying, hey, you know what? Forget that. Forget Brunswick and Lansingburg. Let's do Brunswick and Pittstown. We'll undo the plowing contract here. We'll undo the shared services. We'll do Lansingburg and Scotticoke. That's brand new. Hey, money. That's what's going to happen. And
but no, but that, why would they?
It's because they're broke.
But they would do that. But wouldn't someone who's above them say, hey, you can't do that? We know that this has happened and this is a setup. So you've done it good, but you're not getting anything.
But I don't know.
Because after you've turned in the programs, someone has to tell you, is it accepted?
Well, wait a minute. We just had a governor say that everybody's getting free tuition, but they're really not. So it's up to us to say, well, that's not really what's going on. So, Denny, there's no rules in place. This I got to tell you, you got to read through this, folks. This
Yeah,
is
you know,
like an Abbott and Costello routine reading through this chunk of legislation. It's pathetically written. It makes no sense at all. And it's after the fact we're going to somehow figure out what we're going to do. That doesn't make any sense, Denny. And it's a waste, an epic waste of the time of these county executives and county legislatures and the collective bargaining agreements, who, by the way, I won't even blame them if they do this. The union guys are going to say, there's no way we're sharing that service because that might cost us a job or two. I can't blame them for doing that. Nobody could. So this is the biggest piece of garbage soundbite stuff that I've seen. And believe me, that's saying something. This makes zero sense what we're doing here. So poorly thought out. Not your fault, of course, Denny. Not this house's fault. Whoever wrote this thing, this is a joke. There's no way this is going to fly. And the time frames don't make sense. And then when you look at it, Denny, I feel like I'm lecturing you. I don't really have a question. I may have one more, but I'll go on the bill now. Thank you. Thank you, Denny.
On the bill, Mr. McLaughlin.
So this, folks, is what the governor said is political accountability on steroids. It isn't even political accountability on a Flintstone vitamin. And not even like Fred and Barney, like Bam Bam. I mean, this is nothing. This is the same guy, by the way, that said Startup New York is going to be transformational. Free education is going to be revolutionary. Trust me, the bigger the adjective, the worse the program is. Pay attention to what's going on here. I guarantee you're going to hear from every one of your county executives about what a farce this thing is. There's no money to be saved here because they're already squeezing blood out of that stone as much as they can. What we need to do is what this governor refuses to do, which is address the crushing mandates. And that's what this one is, by the way. This is another mandate, unfunded, telling the counties what to do with no money behind it. So that's what this House should be focused on. Not a dog and pony show, not pretending that we're going to share services and all this make-believe money is going to happen. Unfunded mandates is where the problem is. Every single county executive, I'm sure, has told you and will continue to do so. So I want to thank you, Denny, for your work on this, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.